Thank you guys for tuning into the Chaos and Order podcast. This is episode 4, and in this conversation, I just had a good time talking to my friend Jess. It was an open discussion. It wasn't contained. It wasn't anything strict. It was just, a good time just exploring different ideas, and it's something that I'm getting better at doing for the first time. It's something that doing anything for the first time, you feel vulnerable doing it. You feel that there's all sorts of different holes and crutches that you lean on, especially with talking. It's the most basic or it's the most fundamental form of human communication, yet so often we use just different crutches and just like different things to lean on when we talk that kind of inhibits our capability to express ourselves or our ideas in a very just coherent and clear manner. But by doing a podcast and by actually trying to sit down and turn a conversation into a form of entertainment, or if you want to be really pretentious about it, an art, then you really start to just take notice of those things, and that's when you start to eliminate them. And so, that's why I'm doing this thing, is just to get better at talking. That's the biggest reason why I'm doing this: get better at talking, get better at expressing myself, and most importantly, get better at listening. I think that's probably one of the hardest things people know how to do, is just be able to listen to somebody without letting any other thoughts pop into your head whatsoever. But like I said, I hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you for tuning in. And if any of you guys are interested in anything psychedelic, check out dreamdelic.com. If you're interested in anything Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, check out jitsugear.com. But hope you guys enjoy it. Peace out.
Angels smoking cigarettes on rooftops in fishnets in the morning with the moon still glowing. And here comes Jesus in an Astro van rolling down the strip again. He's stoned while Jerry plays. He said life ain't ever what it seems. These dreams are more than paper things. It's alright, mama, you're afraid I'll be poor along the way, but I don't want to see those tears again. Jesus drives an Astro van. Yes, he does.
If you're corgi, I think of
No, that's a dachshund.
I think of little dogs that old ladies carry around in their purse.
No, corgi's like a medium-sized dog. They're kind of short, though. They've got real short legs. And when they walk, their butt moves from, side to side just because of the way they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had a pug come in the other day with, a distended eye. And, I immediately thought of your mom asking me about Chesty. But
what was wrong with his eye?
His eye, popped out.
Yeah.
And
it popped out?
It popped, it was, out. It wasn't completely out where you could see, the retina, cords and everything. But it was, popped out, and they had to, sedate him and, push it back in and, go in and,
How did it pop out?
I don't know. Maybe he was, constipated and pushing to, go to the bathroom. I really don't know. But the owner was freaking out. I mean, I can see why.
How the fuck do...
There's, a 60% chance he's going to go blind in that eye now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Poor pug.
Pugs are definitely one of those animals that people just bred into existence. That was definitely not something that
yeah. There's a lot of also
found
with
in nature.
Yeah, with a lot of dog breeds that are the show breed, dachshunds and pugs and even greyhounds and things like that, or a whippet.
A whippet?
A whippet. It's a type of dog. It's similar to a greyhound, but they're a lot more slender.
Have you ever heard of whippets? The things that people do. Whippets. It's you know what I'm talking about?
No.
It's I think it's whipped cream. That stuff, that air in the whipped cream, or those spray cans.
Yeah.
People get high off that. Have you ever heard of that?
What? No.
I'm pretty sure that's what it is. It's called
That's
whippets.
crazy. Is that bath salts?
Something like that. There was a podcast with Joe Rogan. He had a Steve-O on. Steve-O from Jackass. He was talking about how he was addicted to whippets. And all it does is it gets you, he was saying it gets you high for 20 seconds. It gets you really
What?
high.
That's so stupid.
But it's so bad for your brain because you're just shoving this weird, I don't know what this pressurized chemical.
It's compressed air.
I mean, it's something worse than air.
It'd be shooting, those little, compressed air keyboard cleaner things. It'd be shooting one of those up your nose.
That's what it is.
Oh my God.
I'm pretty sure that's what a whippet is.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
People, like, abuse stuff so much. Like, I remember there was this, like, fish treatment. Like, it was, like, a dissolvable tab that, like, treats the water in, like, the fish tank, like, for, for swim bladder and for fin rot and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I remember reading on the package, like, any other use for other than its intended purpose is unlawful. And I was like, oh my gosh, what are people doing with this, like, fish treatment stuff?
Yeah.
Like, I remember thinking that to myself. I was like, damn.
Well, something fucking is going on about the Tide Pod situation. I want to look that up. Like, what the fuck?
We should look that up.
Why? Like, because what are some of the memes that you've seen about that?
I've seen,
Tide
like,
Pod.
what was it? Oh, like, there was something that, like, Ryan Reynolds posted, like, on Twitter, where he was like, thought I put a pack of Fruit Gushers in my daughter's lunchbox, but just realized I put a Tide Pod in there. And I was like, I think it's something about kids eating the Tide Pods and, like, dying or something like that. I don't know. But, like, it says...
There's something called a Tide Pod Challenge.
No. Please tell me there isn't.
Hold on, let me read
what is
says.
it?
It says on July 10th, Redditor, so on Reddit, somebody submitted a post titled, "Bite into one of those Tide Pods. Do it." And it was posted on the Reddit community called Intrusive Thoughts.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I guess if you think about it, like, I've never thought about it that
yeah.
way, but just what the feeling of biting into a Tide Pod would be.
I kind of want to try it. I'm not going to lie.
Shut up. No.
I know. But that's really strange. Like, to think, like, you know how, like, when you're little, like, your mom is like, well, if your friends were jumping off a bridge, would you do it too? Like, this is that kind of thing. Like, if somebody suggested...
That planking thing that got really popular at one point, you ever... Like, it was in The Office. They featured it in The Office, how people would just, like, randomly just, like, plank on...
Yeah, people were talking about, like, planking on, like roofs of, like, buildings and, like, stuff like that.
No, but I'm pretty sure somebody died doing it. Like, that's when it kind of stopped.
Oh, my
I don't know if
gosh.
that's true or not, but I heard...
That was, like, in the early 2000s when that came about. Because I remember I was, like, in middle school.
That was one of the first... like waves of meme to really hit. Like,
really?
Yeah, like that's when, like, the internet started getting popular. Like, now, like, there's a whole new meme every few, like, weeks. Remember when people put bottles around their lips to get
to do the Kylie Jenner lip challenge. Yeah, I remember that. It was like either a shot glass or a bottle.
Jesus.
And, like, there were some people, like, you do that because what causes that is, like, sucking your lips into something, like, so, like, small.
It busts your
blood vessels in your lips, and that's why they get all swollen like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's ridiculous. And, like, it's part of, like, if you buy a Kylie Jenner lip kit, it's this thing. It's like a kit
it comes with a cup?
Yeah, it comes with, like, a little lip-shaped thing that you, like, suck into your, like, lips. So you put your lips in, and you basically do, like, the same motion that you do. Because, like, I remember doing that when I was a kid with, like, a cup and, like, getting that ring, like, around your face. But, like, I've never, like,
Did you participate in the Kylie Jenner challenge when it was going on?
Did I what?
Did you participate in
I did not. No, I thought it was the most stupid thing ever.
How mindless do you got to be to...
I have no idea.
People... I don't know, because it's like...
Girls are just obsessed with having big lips, like, today, and I don't know why. But basically, in the Kylie Jenner lip kit, there's different ones you can buy, but I think the complete lip kit is, like, a lip liner pencil, liquid lipstick, like the kind that she uses. I mean, like,
it makes sense.
And then, like, a cup.
It makes sense why girls would want that. I mean, like, it's...
Yeah.
Like, pencil lips aren't necessarily, like, attractive.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like...
I can't believe she's a mom.
The Kardashian thing, like, what's her name? Like, I don't know. They just take it to extremes, but...
That family is on TV for being rich.
I don't know. I don't want to talk about the Kardashians. I really don't want to fucking talk about them.
Yeah.
But
it's not worth the time or the effort.
No. But there was a joke. I was listening to, like, a funny, like a cutout from, like, a stand-up comedy stretch. Mm-hmm. And it was Joe Rogan talking about Kardashian, and he was like, so what if you went to Harvard Business School and said, I am going to have sex with an R&B singer and then make, like, 5 times the amount of money as the president? And they'd be like, get the fuck out of here. And she legitimately makes, like, 50 times or 5, like, a ridiculous amount.
Did she apply to, like, Harvard or something?
No, it was just a joke.
Okay.
Like, it was just saying, like...
Yeah.
It was just saying the fact that she got so popular just off of that one thing. It's
that's crazy.
It's so much money off of it.
Yeah.
I wonder what, like, I don't know. I really don't want to talk about it.
It makes me think about something in like just in general in like our society in the U.S. is that like because people worship these
false idols.
Right, these false idols, like these fashion icons, and they're not really doing anything substantial with their life. But meanwhile, we have doctors and, veterinarians coming up with cures to, training to like come up with cures to all these diseases, and doctors like oncologists working on cancer and like trying to see what's going to work and what's not going to work, and they don't get any of the spotlight. And it's just...
Well, I mean, it's when you talk to those people, they're generally pretty boring. I mean, you talk, like, if you...
That's true.
It's just, like, it's so entertaining to have these... I don't know if it's a subconscious thing or if, like, people think it's serious or whatever, like, but you have these actors going on, like, TV and all these different...
That's true.
I heard that, people like that. Those high celebrity people, they hire people to follow them around and take pictures of them and pretend like, oh, look, we just happen to find them over here, but they taking like really good pictures of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's the most just self-obsessed.
It's very strange that we as a people essentially look up to, these different people, like their different personas and things like that. There was somebody who I was talking to the other day, and she told me her idol is Nicki Minaj.
She was like, what do you mean? Like she was serious?
She was serious. Even though she's like a college student living outside of her means, she would buy like the expensive purses and the expensive shoes. Like she has like 2 pairs of Yeezys. Meanwhile, like she can't make rent. So it baffles me that people can look up to celebrities so much like that they live outside of their means and make themselves like uncomfortable.
Well,
like they're walking around with nice purses and stuff, but they're eating like mac and cheese for dinner every night.
It's people that it's chasing the wrong thing. I think that it's important to chase certain goals and to have certain things to aspire to
for sure,
and
definitely.
to want to be, but it's like, how do you distinguish, like, what's the right thing and what's the wrong thing? But there's just a certain level of emptiness to that, to that kind of
There's only so much stuff you
approach.
can buy, and I really think that saying is true. Like, money can't buy happiness. I definitely think that there's only so much you can buy, and when you're at the end of the day and you're broke and you've bought all this stuff, you feel just as empty, if not emptier, than before.
Yeah.
So,
and then you
that's just my view on it.
You have to kind of distract yourself with more.
Right, you have to distract yourself with more stuff.
With more of the social media, more of the staring at other people doing the same thing, so you feel kind of, like you get kind of in this. Like pop culture seems like kind of this hive mindset that people like get into. It's like it's not people thinking for themselves. It's people that are always either watching TV or always on social media, and they're so consumed in this like narrative that they're letting it control the way they associate their different emotions with different objects and different things, and it's just it's not thinking for themselves.
Yeah, like when you hear a 19, 20-year-old talking about getting a boob job and a butt job to look like Nicki Minaj, that's, I feel like, when it's getting taken too far.
I mean, yeah, that's...
Or a nose job. Even a nose job. I don't know. I think there's something special about looking the way you look. Everybody looks different.
Pure to it.
Yeah, I definitely think there is, like, body modification. I mean, for me, I love piercings.
But, I mean, that's, like, body modification.
Right,
like,
that's body modification, too. Yeah, like, for me, I love piercings, and other people could say, well, that's body modification, too.
You don't, just so people know, like, you don't have a face covered in piercings.
No, I have a few ear piercings, and, I've been thinking about maybe one day getting a tattoo, but I don't think I will, just because... You hear about people, like you see these people like on the street and you talk to them, like, or if you just walk into a tattoo shop and the tattoo artists are covered from like head to toe in tattoos, and they say, Yeah, I told myself I was only going to get 1, 2, and then I ended up getting all these. I don't want that to be me.
Well, it's like another thing that you can get, like, just addicted to the rush.
Yeah, it's another,
getting
like,
tattooed.
hive mindset. Like, for
Yeah.
me, the rush of, like, getting an ear piercing is really awesome. Because...
Like, what's so awesome about it? Like, what does it feel like?
So, I mean, obviously you've never had your ears pierced, so...
Yeah.
But my first ear piercing was done when I was a baby, because it's a large thing in Hispanic culture to get their ears pierced when they're about, like, 6 months old.
Yeah.
So I obviously don't remember my first ear piercing, and then I finally decided to get, like, my second one when I was 18. And just the anticipation, I can kind of compare it to Ariel in a way. The anticipation of, like, oh, man, like, it's gonna look cool, but I don't want to do this. You know, I don't want to do it. I don't want to feel the pain. I don't want to do this. But then... during, you're like, oh man, it hurts. And then after, you're like, wow, that wasn't that bad. It's just it's the adrenaline rush, I think.
So it's like getting over a fear thing?
Yeah, a little bit. I think the adrenaline rush for me is what makes it worth it.
But like, it seems like with that, you know, if you do that all the time, you end up with a bunch of holes in your body.
That is true.
Like,
yeah, that is true. There was one piercing that I got that I did regret, and I let it close. So, yeah, I mean, I just think you need to be wise in your decisions. You can't just wake up one day and be like, hey, I want another piercing, or hey, I want a tattoo. Like, it's something you need to think about.
Going back to what you're saying earlier about, like, boob jobs and nose jobs and stuff like that, don't you think it's kind of like if somebody could say the same thing, they'd be like, well, you're mutilating your body the same, you know, just a different way. Like, what makes your version?
I think for me, what makes piercing rather than a boob job or a butt job or, you know, any type of like plastic surgery different is that it can be easily undone. You know what I mean? Like a piercing heals up. You can let it close. It can be undone. Tattoos, boob jobs, butt jobs can't be undone. You have to physically go somewhere to get it undone, and oftentimes it's even more painful than getting it in the first place, and it costs a lot of money to reverse it.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think there's anything wrong with boob jobs or butt jobs. If people want to be crazy. But
I mean, everybody's going to do what they want to do. Like, everybody just needs to be their own person, but I definitely think that...
I think, because I think that there's...
It's a very superficial thing.
As long as people are... And this sounds so hippy-dippy and cliche, but as long as people are nice to each other, I really don't care what, like, you know, what they do with their body. I mean, it's very cliche, but I mean, you can come across just people in any situation, no matter what. Like, they could be a stripper or whatever, and you can find somebody who's just very down to earth in any situation. But, and, you know, I think that's...
I mean, essentially, at the end of the day, I care about me. I care about what I'm doing, not really what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
You know, as long as I'm okay with, like, looking in the mirror at the end of the day and be like, yeah, you did good today. You know, I think I'm all right with that, because I shouldn't concern myself too much with what everybody else is doing. Because that's when you kind of get caught up in the bullshit, is when you concern yourself with what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, it's a very interesting thing about today is that you have this ability today where you have this number that some people care more about it, some people care less about it, but you always have this number with, like, the amount of Facebook likes you have, the amount of followers you have, the amount of this. Like, you can always kind of measure yourself.
Yeah.
Like that Black Mirror episode, the first one where it's just like everything's turned into this.
Like a rating system.
Yeah, everything's turned into a rating system where just you had to go to go on an airport flight. Like, you had to have a certain rating or something like that. Like, that's... And it's obviously that's taken to the extreme, but...
Imagine one day, though, if it was actually like that.
What do you mean? I mean, in some twisted way, it could end up like that somehow. I mean, just what people... It's a fact that, like, what you see on your social media can affect your mood, can alter your mood. If somebody says something shitty or does whatever, like, it really affects your mood.
Yeah, I definitely think that that's a big thing. Like, somebody, you know, talking about social media, like, just little things in life. Like, somebody cuts you off in a parking lot or steals your parking space. That could, like, affect your mood for, like, half the day. I mean, I know it's happened to me before when I was at a different university. In this one, people were mean. I lived in a big city, so people were mean.
Miami.
Yeah, so people were mean, and There was this one time where I was already running late to class, and I found a parking spot. I was like, yes, thank you. And this girl just swooped in and took it, and I was so pissed off for the rest of the day. People, like, really think about, like, I thought about getting out of my car and, like, knocking on her window and being like, hey, you took my parking spot. But in reality, it's really not that big a deal in the big grand scheme of things.
Yeah, it's very easy to lose that perspective. You see people driving, and if you cut them off or something happens, they will have just this, like, just boiled over, just negative anger in their face, just flicking you off and, like, honking the horn, and it's just this level
I've
of
flicked
tension.
people off before.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
I think everybody has.
The tension is just so high while, like, people just... But, I don't know. There was one thing I heard... I don't know if it was by somebody who does jiu-jitsu, if I heard it from Joe Rogan, but he was like, you don't ever see somebody, like, you don't really see those kind of people, like somebody who just gets out of a jiu-jitsu class, like, they're not going to have, like, some road rage or anything like that. Yeah. I think the people that are the most even, because maybe this is just me, like, fat shaming or whatever, but I feel like it's normally, like, when you see somebody like that who's just so enraged in that situation, it's somebody whose body is just very just broken down, and it's, like, almost turning on them, like, you know, I don't, you know, when you're balanced with your health, I don't think that you still can, like, there's a lot of assholes out there who are definitely, like, healthy, but still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it definitely has to do with a larger thing. So if you see somebody who's, like, flicking somebody off and just getting all upset over something so menial, I think it's indicative of what the rest of their life is like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The way you treat anything is how you treat everything.
Yeah, that's true. That is definitely true.
Yeah.
I think that also goes without being said, too, though, that the way you react to, like, little things is the way you're going to react to big things.
Well, it goes back to the making your bed every morning thing. Like, it's just a small little thing, but like you said, it's something that a lot of people feel. Just, it touches everything else.
That reminds me, going back to, like, memes, there's this meme that I saw the other day, and all it said was, you know, the kids who shoved their papers in their backpack without a folder are cons now in jail. Like, convicts in jail.
I did that all the time.
Oh my gosh.
I did that all the time.
Yeah.
I would have backpacks with just
papers
piled, like, I tried to keep it somewhat organized, but yeah, no, I never thought about that when I was a kid. But you just don't ever notice it. But the kids who always had the best grades and had their shit together
were like the ones who would put their papers, like, in their folder and then put their folder in their backpack.
Color coded, and they had all the different dividers and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. Huh.
I was one of those nerdy kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just goes to show you how little things can carry over.
Yeah.
To, you know, largely in life. Like, when you were little, did you make your bed before you went to school?
No, I never made my bed.
I always made my bed before I went to school.
I would wake up, and I would, like, just waking up was just a chore. I could barely keep my eyes open whenever I woke up. I would wake up, I would just drag myself to the kitchen, have a few Pop-Tarts, sit on the couch for like a half hour and watch TV, and then get ready and go to school. And yeah, it was
my morning routine was very extensive when I was a kid.
When you were a kid?
Yeah, because definitely even more so than now. When I was a kid, I would, like, whether it was my mom or my dad taking me to school, the first thing I would do when I would wake up, I'd wake myself up every morning. I'd set my alarm every night, wake myself up in the morning. First thing I would do is make my bed. Then I'd take the dog out, let her do her business. And then I would put the coffee on for my parents. I would, like, make a pot of coffee. And then I would go into their room, shut off the fan, turn on the light, and be like, yo, guys, it's time to get up.
You would wake your parents up?
Yeah.
That was the opposite in my house. My parents would wake me up.
Nope. I would wake my parents up in the morning, and then my mom would, you know, get her coffee. My dad would get coffee, smoke his morning cigarette. And I'd be getting ready for school. I'd make myself breakfast. And by the time I was done eating breakfast, my mom would be in the kitchen making my lunch. And then I'd go off, brush my teeth, get dressed, do stuff like that. And then she would do my hair for me, like when I was really little. Yeah. She would do my hair for me for school. And then either my mom or my dad would take me to school. Or they'd walk me to the bus stop and I'd get on the bus.
Wow.
So it was a very organized morning. Like, we had it down.
Yeah.
We had it down. It was really cool. And the only morning, like, my mom would make me breakfast during the school year was my birthday. She'd wake me up on my birthday.
She'd wake you up on your birthday?
Yeah. And then on the weekends, we would eat breakfast together as a family. We would, like, go to a local bakery and get some bagels and then have some eggs.
Yeah.
That's what we used to do on weekends. But it just goes to show you, like, how routine... Like, I yearn to, like, have that routine of when I was a kid again. I think now that I've moved into a new apartment, this is the time that I can establish that, okay, make your bed as soon as you wake up,
Yeah, because I feel like when you do everything step by step, the way you want it to do in the morning, it's like... You feel like you're walking on very solid ground the rest of the day, but when you don't get everything set up right, everything feels very shaky and just like all over the place, and just things just kind of just have this. You have a more just jumbled and unfocused mentality for everything else.
Yeah, I notice when I don't do my morning routine or when I wake up late, I feel the rest of the day is rushed.
Yeah.
The rest of the day is, okay, gotta get home from class, gotta eat breakfast. Okay, now I gotta get ready for work.
I don't know if you feel this way too, but whenever I feel like it also like physically it's important to like do different things in the routine to get everything set up. I also feel mentally I always feel clear if I have something like maybe like kind of foggy in my head and I just write it down.
Right.
Like sometimes the only way I can go to sleep, like last night, I could not go to sleep. So the only way I can go to sleep was if I started writing and just got everything that was like in my head and just articulated it in a way that was clear, as opposed to it feels like you look at things clear whenever you write or talk about something because it just seems like it's like foggy and it kind of bounces around a little bit when it's just in your head.
Yeah, I think that's also definitely a personality thing too, because some people can just get up, not make their bed, do their own thing, and have a great solid day.
Yeah.
I think some people need more structure than others. I'm definitely a person who needs structure, for sure.
Well, I mean, there's some people that are just great despite, like, being a drug addict. I mean, Jimi Hendrix was a heroin addict. And
he just accomplished great things.
And, I mean, most musicians were drug addicts in some way. Probably, that's the thing, is, like, does that addiction kind of personality correlate in some way with musical or creative talent?
I think so, maybe. I think maybe there definitely have been studies focused on people who are on the more creative side,
tend to be more,
whether it's musically or artistically, tend to be more unstable in their emotions, like more emotionally unstable, and I think
it makes sense. I mean, because when you hear the lyrics of any of those songs, it's not too deep, but they're really going into some emotions and really articulating them, and you kind of are only able to do that if you experience like the extremes of the spectrum. Like you're on heroin, you are on the extreme of what it's like to be feeling love and happiness and all that stuff. But when you're down, you really know what it feels like to be down. Yeah. So you like your existence is like most people might like just kind of bounce a little bit up and down, but they're just all over the place, up and down.
Yeah, I definitely know that for somebody that I know, he has been a very emotional person all of his life, but he is one of the best artists I know. He doesn't draw anymore. Yeah. But, now that he's older, he doesn't really draw anymore. But he's one of the best artists I know. Like, when I was a kid, I would always look up to him as, like, one of the best artists that I knew just because he was so good at creating things.
Yeah. I always feel like a lot of times that sort of drug addiction and just addictions to just, it can, not just drugs, but food and other stuff in general can kind of be, and it sounds so wishy-washy, but when you have kind of a creative like thing in you that you're not getting out, I feel like it kind of like it kind of stores up inside you, and it kind of turns into just like it kind of expires. Yeah. And it goes rotten, and then it turns into just this striving for like pleasure and this stuff, as opposed to if you're doing something more creative, it doesn't make you happy, but it makes everything in your life it makes it come off a little bit more like musical. Like everything just seems to kind of flow together a little bit better when you're really on top of like creating something or being engaged in something.
Yeah, what do you think about genetics? Like,
What do
if
you
you
mean?
have one parent who's never experimented with drugs in their life, always walked the straight and narrow, has never really messed up, royally in life, and then you have another parent who's, just on the other side of the spectrum, like experimented with drugs and, like that, and then they have a kid.
Yeah, I don't know. I think...
Do you think that personality, like, the kid will get one or the other's personality, or kind of a mixture of the both?
I mean, I know nothing about genetics, but I feel that it probably... I don't know, because have you ever heard of epigenetics?
No.
It's this thing where it's like a very new field where people are finding out that, or people, whoever they are, like whenever you say, oh, they did a study, you don't say who the fuck is they.
You don't say the specific doctor or scientist who conducted the study.
Yeah, it's just this like ambiguous today. But they're doing research that certain genes can be turned on or off. Like if you, and that they're finding like when you go for a run or when you're in nature or if you're just sitting on the couch, like different genes, it's not just a matter of like you have these set genes and this is like where you're going to be and this is how you do it. This is just like my understanding of it is that you're given with like a predisposition for these genes and you have a certain amount of room within these boundaries to turn these things on or off, so it's like a combination of, it's the combination that nature and nurture. You have that ability to alter your very own genetics to some extent with the choices you make, but at the same time, like there's some people that are just completely, they're completely, like there's LeBron Jameses out there who are just like, they're just freaks of nature. And then there's probably people on the opposite end of the spectrum who are just, they're just born with like no chance of like real, like a whole lot of happiness or like, very addicted behavior.
I definitely think that genes are kind of freaky thing, like a very unpredictable thing, because a few years ago I was diagnosed with a really rare brain tumor. It was benign. But one thing that causes this brain tumor in adolescence, it's very rare in adolescence, and I was like 14 when I was diagnosed. So a very rare genetic condition that causes it is known as NF2, or neurofibromatosis type 2. Because I would think maybe I was like the fourth or fifth case. It's a type of genetic disorder that causes you to create these benign tumors in your brain just constantly. And they can be produced anywhere, like near the cerebellum, like anywhere in your brain. And I was tested for NF2, and my parents had to be tested because I have their genes, obviously, and, nothing came up. Nobody tested positive for having an NF2 gene. Nobody was a carrier. Nobody was, like, anything. But I remember they had to do extensive genetic testing. Yeah. And when I came up negative for it, which was great, like, there's just no explanation as to why I got this rare tumor. Yeah. Like, I've asked the doctors who've been doing this, they've dedicated their whole lives to this, and sometimes it just happens. Like, there's no explanation. So genes are a really strange thing. Well, yeah, there's definitely that freakiness, that aspect of it. Genes are definitely the opposite of communism. Like, there's no equality in genes. Like, there's no, everybody's different. One size fits all. Everybody is different. There's no, like, when you think about it, we're all human beings. Well, twins. Those are the only two people. Yeah, but even them, like, the moment they're born, they kind of branch off on, but it's very, like, you always hear those freak studies where they'll find two twins that are separated at birth and they married somebody with the same name and they, like just crazy shit like that. Like, so yeah, genes definitely probably play a huge role in that, but everybody has a different starting point with their genes. There's no equality in it whatsoever. Yeah, that is true for sure. Yeah, what were you going to say? I was going to say, but like in society, what determines which genes are superior? Because you think about, back during World War II, obviously Adolf Hitler thought the genes of like blonde hair, blue eyes were superior, the white person. Well, I think what determines it is who wins and loses. He lost, so
we get to decide that, hey, that's obviously not
true.
Maybe not the best idea. Because that was like a big thing back then, was like this thing called social Darwinism, although it doesn't have a whole lot to do with Darwin. It's just this idea they had like in the 20s and the 30s, maybe before that, I don't know exactly when, but they had this idea that, you know, this very like brutish, like super the opposite of like communism, where it's like people are like, well, the poor people are just, you know, they're just dragging everybody down with their shitty ass genes. Just let them if you just let them die off, they'll be like, that was a big thing back then. It was just, the idea was, you know, if you weren't successful, you were like holding society back, and you were just, you know.
But Hitler hated Jews, and Jews are very, like, the
Hitler
Jewish people.
Jews? Really?
The Jewish people as a whole are a very smart, hardworking set of people. You know, they're very smart business people. Yeah. They just have an affinity for conducting business. And
well, they probably had to be that way because of people like Hitler. I mean, they've been persecuted.
The Jews have been the most persecuted, definitely the most persecuted group of people of existence. Yeah. I mean, think about it. Like, the Israelites, who were essentially Jewish, were captured by Egypt. And
you're talking about some biblical shit?
Yeah.
I don't
You know, they were, well, Egypt forced the Hebrews into being their slaves. That's where Moses comes in and he freed the people. But if you think about it...
But do you know any of that happened for sure? I
mean, that in and of itself, I'm not talking about the Bible as a whole, but that in and of itself was a part of history. It's part of the history books that the Hebrews, that the Egyptians in a war captured the Hebrews because they lost. And they were enslaved to the Egyptians for, like, I want to say 40 years, but I'm not sure how long it was that the Jewish people as a whole were enslaved to Egypt. But there was a show I was watching the other day, because I'm a very old soul. I like watching old shows. Little House on the Prairie. There's a character in the show. His name is Percival, and he's marrying a white woman. And there was a comment that was made, and it was made on purpose, where he was talking to his father, because his father was in disagreement of him marrying a non-Jewish woman. And he said, you know, it's not like biblical times. You know, the Jewish are never going to be held back or captured or treated badly again. And it's just so ironic because, you know, 30 years after that, like, takes place, you know, the Western Front and all of that time takes place.
When was the Little House on the...
Little House on the Prairie was obviously filmed after, but like, it was, you know, in that time.
What was the...
He was making a comment of like, well, the Jewish are never going to be captured again.
Do you think that was just like a way of the writers of the show just like making a little like joke, like it?
I feel like it was maybe not a joke, but you think to yourself like, wow, people actually thought that way, because they didn't know what was coming down the pipeline. They didn't know that 1940s Hitler was going to be, you know, trying to kick out the Jewish people, you know, from the planet, basically.
Yeah.
But it's just crazy how, you know, different things happen in the world.
Yeah, Jews. No, but so I feel like, so that's like a legitimate fact that the Jewish people were slaves in Egypt, because I've heard conflicting evidence about that. Like, I don't know if, like, I really like.
No, that in and of itself is a historical fact.
Hey, did you guys reserve this room?
Yeah, we
In
did.
the future, be sure to stop by the desk and get your card. That way we know
Okay.
you're allowed in.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Damn it. Fucked up our own fucking podcast.
We're fine. I'll just edit that out. What were we saying?
I don't know, we were talking about the Jewish people.
Jewish people. Oh, we were saying.
Oh, in the hieroglyphics, it's there have been different interpreters that have gone, you know, obviously to read the hieroglyphics in Egypt and just all of the different records that they have, and they have records of the Jewish people working for them because they did have them numbered. The slaves were numbered. They would get tattooed, or, you know, it burned onto their skin, like what slave number they were, and that's how they kept track of them.
What?
Yeah.
I wish I really had like a big TV in here so I can just Google this shit so I know for sure, because I have no I have no real knowledge to dispute.
But it is definitely identified in history, you know.
I think anything with Egypt is very gray, because there's a lot.
I want to go there one day
there,
for sure. I want to see the pyramids.
I think everybody does, but there's a modern, or not a modern. There's a very new line of thinking about Egypt that Egypt is way older than people think. Like there's a line of thinking that Egypt is really stemmed from a civilization that was like 12,000 years older than
Egypt
it really
stemmed
was.
from like the Sumerians.
Yeah.
So,
but there's this guy named Graham Hancock, and he basically puts forward that, and him and a few other people put forward that there was this very advanced civilization before, like around the, like probably way before the Egyptians.
I've heard that too, that there was definitely like an advanced like type of civilization before, and I know like for you the Bible is a bit of a gray area, but
but like one of the things that they were saying in it was like there was this very advanced civilization, because when you look at these I don't know, but like when they date these things, like there's a lot of monuments out there that are dated that push the start of civilization back further and further and further. Yeah. And when you read about how big those stones are for the pyramids, like they're giant. And
there's one block.
There's hundreds of thousands of them. It's like it would take. There was some like estimate that it would take them like thousands of years to do that all by hand or however they were doing it.
I'm looking up how big a pyramid block is. A pyramid brick. So with average density, large limestone blocks. So they're limestone. Weighed about 6.5 to 10 tons.
What?
So one block weighed. And then the smaller ones that they would use as they got higher weighed about 1.3 to 2.5 tons.
A ton is like 2,000 pounds. So it could have been 20, or no.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. So it could have been 20,000 pounds? Is that what that's fucking... Jesus Christ.
Listen to this one, just to think about how large these pyramids actually are. On the Giza Plateau, Khufu's builders oriented his pyramid almost perfectly north. The largest pyramid ever built incorporates about 2.3 million stone blocks, weighing an average of 2.5 to 15 tons each.
Yeah.
That's 2.3 million, and then each stone is weighing like 10 to 15 tons. Like, how could people lift that?
Aliens.
Yeah. Has to be.
Yeah. I bet there was a super advanced civilization before then, and then
there's been talk
Egyptians just wandered into the pyramids and they started sketching shit on the walls.
Yeah, even like the Christian realm of like science, and I say that very loosely. Yeah, I say that very loosely. There are definitely different philosophers that think before the time of Noah and like the supposed flood that civilization was so advanced, even more advanced than we are now, you know, and that after everything was wiped out, whether it was a frickin' flood or an ice age or whatever, you know, that we were so advanced and we're basically like starting over, like somebody kicked an anthill and we're starting over. So I don't know, I think that's a definitely
very good
cool way to look at it.
Kicking an anthill.
Yeah, because you see it and they just immediately start rebuilding.
Yeah.
Like immediately.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, you know, all these great minds that have come about in this century alone, you know, and I mean, like, in this century, we've gone from, you know, Nikola Tesla to Elon Musk to, you know, like, just these people creating such incredible things, and they just keep building off of one another.
There's always those outliers in history that they come up and they just make they just shoot everything forward like 10, 20 years. Like Da Vinci, all the things he did, or Benjamin Franklin, he was involved in like tons of things too. Like there's occasionally these like huge figures that rise up and become just infamous. Yeah.
I definitely think that. Have you heard the story of how Thomas Edison stole Nikola Tesla's
I think that's a very like it's a very new agey thing that pops up as people talking about how he stole his ideas. Jesus.
I got like 2 people knocking on the door this morning.
Jesus, why would it's a study room?
I don't know.
Anyways, no big deal. But what was I saying?
Talking about Nikola Tesla. So Thomas Edison actually wanted to do the way that came about, that new agey thing of Thomas Edison stealing Nikola Tesla's ideas, was that Nikola Tesla wanted electricity for the betterment of the people, and Thomas Edison was like, nah, man, I just want to make money.
See, was that I heard that Thomas Edison, one of the things, it was like it was a dispute between AC and DC. That's what it was?
So
Yeah.
AC is alternating current and DC is direct current.
And
so
Edison was direct current.
Edison was direct current and
Tesla
Tesla was
was
alternating
alternate
current. So Tesla was like, look, I've made it so that electricity can travel over miles without having to have a substation or anything, every 100 feet. And Thomas Edison was like, yeah, but if we use direct current and we do have to have a substation every 100 feet and power lines everywhere connecting everything, then, we're going to make way more money. And he was like, yeah, but society is going to benefit more from alternating current.
Tesla, that you always hear Tesla was like involved with this, he was going to come up with this thing that would have, this like machine that would have made electricity free for everybody, like kind of like wireless, somehow like
wireless.
I don't know how I think if he was onto something, it probably would have been invented by now.
Yeah.
But like when he found out, when the guy who was funding him, I believe it was J.P. Morgan, and J.P. Morgan
was funding,
was the big banker, and like the moment he found out about that, like, no, stop, like not doing that.
Yeah. There's been also like a conspiracy theory that Tesla was messing around with time travel. Yeah, like I heard that the other day, and I was damn.
You'll find a conspiracy theory for everything. Did I tell you about the Hillary Clinton lizard videos where they'll record Hillary Clinton and they'll zoom in on her face and they'll show her just not blinking for like 2 straight minutes.
Gosh.
And
that's a sign of like a sociopath or a psychopath. Like, did you know that? Like not blinking.
Not blinking.
In the movie Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal Lecter, not once in the movie, and it was just to subconsciously, because while you're watching a movie, you don't think, what, that person hasn't blinked. But subconsciously, in our mind, it registers with evil, because psychopaths have this thing that they, like when you're a true psychopath, you don't blink. You hardly ever blink. And Hannibal Lecter in the movie, not once do you see him blink.
They don't ever blink.
He doesn't ever blink in the movie.
But isn't like the purpose of blinking to... like,
wet your eyes.
Wet your eyes, why?
I'm not sure why that's a mental thing, but I've definitely read that psychopaths or sociopaths don't generally blink.
Don't generally blink
As much as the average person.
Research.
Yeah.
And then, like, you're still going to sound crazy to everybody else because nobody else is going to go through all that research. And so you're just kind of, I don't know, it's hard because what if there are family members whose children legitimately got shot in Sandy Hook?
Yeah, and they're hearing this
and then you're over here
conspiracy
saying,
theory.
like, that
didn't really happen.
Like,
and they just getting over the loss of a child, which I feel like, in a way, you can't ever get over that. The loss of a child. Because they're snuffed out before they even have a chance to live life.
Yeah.
And to be a parent and to think to yourself, like, imagine... because this is a very, like, large possibility.
Yeah.
Kids, when they're kids, don't really want to go to school. They're like, Mom, I'm sick. Let me stay home.
Yeah.
Imagine if there was a kid who said that to their mother the day before they went to school that day. And she never saw them. Like, she made them go to school. And she never saw them again.
Damn, that just put a shitty scenario in my head.
That's terrible.
Yeah,
like, to think that a parent has to live with that.
There's something different about the death of a child compared to an adult, because it's just like there's this potentiality in a child.
There's potentiality and there's innocence.
Yeah,
in a child.
You know that like it can't really do that much wrong, but you know that it can, like, there's so many different ways that can go positive or negative. You know, like any child could be the next fucking Da Vinci or whatever. You know,
and you
or the
even
next
think about
serial
it.
killer. If you
Even
think
a
about
child, like, say my age, I'm 20. Even if my parents were to lose me now that I'm 20, it's still a really big...
gone.
Yeah, it's still a really big thing of losing a child, because it's very unnatural for a child to die before their parents do.
Obviously,
so I feel like parents just have a really hard time getting over that. Like, you're not supposed to see your child die in your lifetime. They're supposed to outlive you.
Yeah.
And, I think parents who have a child who dies before them, that's like an emotional scar that may go away, may never go away.
I doubt it. I doubt it could go away, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
that's got to be large amounts of, therapy and counseling for a person, or a lot of people turn into drug addicts and alcoholics when their child dies.
Yeah.
A lot of times the death of a child will break up a marriage.
Will break up a marriage? Like, what do you mean? Like, is that like a study?
It's not really, I don't really think it's a study, but once parents, like, lose a child, whether it's to a sickness or a horrific accident or a shooting or anything, I feel like one parent maybe tries to blame the other and the other tries to blame the other one.
You
and
think so?
They just start, arguments happen a lot more because think about it, there's this, your marriage was, the creation of this child.
Have you ever seen Into the Wilds where the kid runs away? Mm-mm. In that movie, it was like the opposite, that where the parents are real fucked up and argumentative all the time, but the kid ran away, and that like brought the parents together.
Really?
I mean, it could have I think anytime there's something that crazy that happens.
I think
in
tragedy
life,
can either bring people closer together or push them apart.
Yeah, it has.
It depends on how it's handled.
Once you're up in the stakes of the game, like it can. I think anything that is super like negative, or even things that are just slightly negative, you always have the potential to say, hey, this is something that is fuel for something higher.
Mm-hmm. It goes for anything in life.
Or you could say it's like an obstacle that's just holding you back.
It goes for anything in life. You can look at anything as, man, this is just the world trying to keep me down, or wow, like I'm going to work even harder now.
Yeah.
So I think it just depends on your personality and how you look at it.
Yeah.
Goes back to making your bed.
Making your bed?
Making your bed.
Yeah,
because I think maybe people who do small habits like that have a greater chance of looking at things as obstacles that they can overcome, and that it's just going to make them stronger, rather than looking at things as things in their obstacles that they can't get over.
Well, that's the I mean, it goes back to like what we were saying about Noah and the flood. That's like the Jordan Peterson interpretation of the flood, is that if you're somebody who is diligent in your habits, your routines, and moral in the things that you do on a day-to-day basis, then when that time comes that there's a tragedy or trauma or some flood, then you will have the ark, built. Mm-hmm. You will be able to sustain it and carry on and push through it, as opposed to like, being, like one of the things he says is like, when your father dies, do you want to be the person who's just helpless and just they're gone, they're just so
I don't think everybody distraught. Has a grieving period, but after that,
or do you want to be the person that people can depend on, like people can depend on and like rest their shoulder on whenever something like that occurs?
That reminds me of another like Bible parable that comes to my mind. Is there was a story of two men, one built his house on a rock and the other
I know you're talking about.
Built his house on the sand because it was just easier, it was closer, it was way closer to where all the lumber was, like he wasn't going to have to carry it as far. But the wise man built his house on the rock, took more time to build his house, but when the storm came, his house stood strong because it was on a rock.
Yeah.
But the dude who built his house on the sand, when the storm came, it washed it away because it was built on sand, obviously. It wasn't built on a firm foundation. And I think maybe those habits and those things that you do are your foundation for everything else that you do in your life and how your life goes.
Yeah.
For sure, definitely, because...
Yeah, me and you have very differing opinions on the Bible, but I definitely, that, like, parable, like you said, that's something that I've read and I've found, like, that... It completely makes sense, It's the thing that is going to carry you through the hardest things.
Yeah.
Are a lot of times like just practicing doing things that are uncomfortable, but at the same time have that sort of that having the future in mind.
Yeah. That being said, I've recently learned that doing the uncomfortable thing isn't always the right thing.
Isn't always the right thing.
Right. Isn't always the right thing.
Yeah, definitely, because you can definitely get caught up in like, oh, like just I should just make everything uncomfortable, and that's not all. I think you need balance, and you need like everything in moderation, including moderation.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel that that is a very good point to leave this off on.
I think so
this
too.
is another good conversation, and I appreciate you sitting down with me.
When I see those angels on the roof, I'll know I've made it. When my doobie smoking Jesus puts my name upon his guest list, says, son, you're famous in heaven. Maybe you're famous in heaven. And maybe there is no heaven. And maybe we're all alone together now. And I don't want to see those tears again. You know Jesus drives an Astro van. Again, you know Jesus drives an Astro van.
Again, you guys, big shout out to Mount Joy for letting me use their song Astro Van. I reached out to them on Instagram saying how much I love the song, and I emailed them, and they emailed me back saying I could use it as long as it was on the internet for free, which is pretty reasonable. And like I said, go download them on iTunes, go see their concert, whatever. But just thank you guys so much for letting me use their song. And again, if any of you are interested in anything psychedelic, go to dreamdelic.com. I'm getting a lot of good feedback on it, a lot of very unique designs that I have over there. And it's some very cool shit. And if you have suggestions, let me know. And I'm also, if any of you don't know, I love Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and I have a website called jitsugear.com. If you're interested in any of that stuff, please check it out. And thanks again for listening. Peace out.